Stop. You are about to embark upon a classical choose-your-own adventure, with influences from mystery novels and weird fiction of a prior age. During this adventure, you will have to choose how you spend your time, and this may result in circumstances that lead to differing conclusions at the end of the party. If at any time you meet an unfortunate end, you may use the powers of technology to rewind time and begin your journey anew, or from the most previously encountered branch. The party is set to take place over the course of one night, with the guest leaving the next morning. In that course of time, you will have to find out what, if any, mysterious behavior is haunting the isolated estate, and perhaps attempt to combat it. During your adventure, you may find it handy to keep scratch paper, your beverage of choice, and your wits about you. Be vigilant and cautious, and perhaps you will make it out alive, and having solved the mysteries that await you at the party. When you are ready, you will find a black automobile, unmarked and unlicensed, waiting for you. Be wary, for when you take it, there will be no going back. My final advice to you is to write down the title of every video you watched on your journey. You will need to know this at the end. The party. A choose your own adventure with an occult twist. By an elderly dingbat. Converted to audio by ARandomAudiobookAppeared. The evening was dark and without stars the night that you received a letter from Inspector General Duplessis asking you to come to France, as a personal favor. Enclosed in the letter were airfare, various travel expenses, mementos, and tokens from various corners of the globe, and yet no explanation for your mysterious summons. You nevertheless made immediate arrangements with your business and with your family, intent on traveling post-haste. Looking more haggard and careworn than the last time you saw him, Duplessis was there to personally greet you warmly and in person at the entry road of his small residence outside of Reims. Never one for wasted words, the inspector beckoned you inside, and soon the two of you were sitting down by the crackling orange glow of firelight, Duplessis speaking animatedly of a raid amongst the swamps of the American South. His eyes were flooded with the echoes of embers as he spoke of loathsome cults and unknowable powers with a zeal that almost grew to be unnerving, but he did not dwell there for long, instead choosing to beg you with great humility for your aid in a matter that he dared not trust to any of his commissioned officers, for fear that they might somehow be linked back the heart of it. So saying, his hands unshaking as the fire died down, the inspector moved to the disturbing tale he had specifically requested your presence for. Rumors had begun to circulate amongst the dock workers of strange shipments from the port of Calais, being taken to the manor house of a certain eccentric businessman and expatriate. No proof of wrongdoing having been found, it was assumed to be mere importation of eclectic artifacts from the distant corner of the globe, and yet strange events, disappearances of dock workers and field hands, strange lights and formations of the stars, odd behavior of animals, all of these matters had been reported, with a frequency that could no longer be ignored. And that, finished the inspector, is where you come in. Please, my dear friend. Duplessis began, taking your hand in his. It is not just that I will not investigate this on my own, I cannot. It would be a breach of all the rights vested in me, and a breach of the trust of the people of France. I do not even know if there is anything to investigate. The hesitation in his words hung in the air as much as the last vestiges of smoke, but more tangible, and more regretful by far. But, I can ask you to go, on my behalf. Everything will be paid for, and credentials have been found, so that you may attend a party hosted by the owner of this manor. I ask you with no obligation, only as one friend to another. You did not even have to wait to tell Duplessis of your acceptance, even as he fell back into his chair with an obvious relief. It will be dangerous, I think, there may even be attempts against your life. But you have no idea how much this means to me, for if it is nothing, then let it be nothing. I hope, then, it is an enjoyable party you are able to enjoy for services rendered. And if it is more than that. The sound of his fingers against a wooden stand tap a somber little melody, Duplessis frowning imperceptibly, before handing you an attaché case containing identification, currencies from several countries, in generous amounts, and fanciful clothes. This soiree has several rules, none of the guests are to be named, even yourself, save for the host, who knows the names of all. A wry smile flickered across his face, then, but it was gone in a moment. I am able to divine his name, of course, but cannot tell it to you, for that would be criminal in nature. It is enough if you find proof of wrongdoing, then, the full force of the law will be able to act on your call.
Despite this secrecy, however, I have been able to determine the following information about those invited alongside you.
The hostel you stayed in that night was graced by a spate of rain that did much to soothe the nerves, but even as sleep overcomes the sense, your mind is unable to stop turning the information provided by the inspector over in your head, until you awake from a restless paralysis, uncertain if you were ever truly asleep. Dramatis Personae. The host, the patrician and founder of this social gathering, a man of some wealth and taste with connections to each member of the assembled. He has been reclusive and uncontactable by all involved, leaving the exact nature of the gathering a mystery. It is rumored that he has fired all of his customary servants and housekeepers for the event, and has prepared everything, from the feast, to the arrangement of niceties, himself. Also rumored is his connection to a society for the study of certain artifacts found in the strange reaches of the world. The Major, a career soldier from German Cameroon, with many tales of valor and bravery under his considerable belt. Despite his station, a down-to-earth and jovial man of Bavarian culture and confession in the Junker-dominated estate. Despite his courtesy, there are rumors of debts to the host, as well as certain unspeakable crimes that shadow his otherwise flawless record of service. The financier, an almost legendarily talented broker of stocks and bonds, the financier has successfully opened businesses from China to the Americas, and is perhaps the wealthiest in attendance at the party. He and the host were old school colleagues, though they have been out of contact and favor for some time, if rumors are to be believed. A polyglot and amateur scholar, he was the first to receive an invitation, but the last to respond. The aristocrat, a petty noble in the manner of the Rus, she left that nation after the events of 1905 and has proceeded to spend the time since in steady decline. These days it is all she can do to rise from bed. Eccentric, she wears only men's suits and smokes to the point of self-destruction. Steadily she has divested herself of all saleable goods, and yet still appears to owe a great sum of money to the host. The reporter, a famous reporter from the Republic of Brazil, and a writer of articles that made it politically expedient for her to settle elsewhere, due to family connections. She has resided for the last several years in the Irish territories of the United Kingdom. The host has served as a patron for her recent journalistic endeavors, and with many papers refusing regular publication of her articles, she has found herself increasingly reliant on that same patronage. The singer, a famous chanteuse from the south of the United States, her sorrowful songs have stilled the heart of many a citizen there, but the recent spate of restrictive laws as well as public opinion regarding her immorality have led her to leave her homeland and settle in the south of France. Facing a severe depression over the flight from America and a middling reception in Europe, the singer accepted the host's offer to attend the party in the hopes of restarting her career anew. A commissioned car arrives not long after, to take you to the host's estate. It is a long and winding road that your driver takes you upon. He talks animatedly about local sports and the weather, but studiously avoids discussing anything regarding your host, and the constant shifting of his eyes indicates an extreme agitation, all the more visible when, as he drops you off at your destination, he bids you a quick farewell and roars off into the distance, automobile shooting smog and dust as it disappears beyond the leaf-shorn trees. As for the house in front of you, it is not as large as you had imagined. The paint is peeling and dry. Grim-faced gargoyles stare down at you from the roof in silent judgment, and the dried leaves on the ground have not been raked for days. Making your way to the door, you knock twice before it swings open. Holding it is a broad man, of ruddy complexion, his white blonde hair and mustache wild and carefree as his smile.
Ah, good, good. With you, everyone is here. Please, come in.
You step inside, glad you've made it into the house before the rain became more than a light shower. The man takes your coat with an almost automatic directness, placing it several others to your side.
It is a pleasure to meet you, my name.
He begins, but a murmur from the long couch in the center hall stops him flat, slight embarrassment sliding across his face.
Ah, yes. Right. I am the Major. It has been the agreement of our little group that we should all take turns welcoming each other, and you are the last. Please. Come sit with us, while we wait for our illustrious host to join us. I am sure he will be along shortly. I have not known the man to waste time.
You follow through the foyer to the center hall, where 3 others have gathered at a table, playing a hand of cards. The first to acknowledge you is a tall, thin man of angular build and Eastern descent whom you recognize as the financier. His beige suit is impeccable as he offers you a brief smile, though he is clearly focused on his hand, which you catch sight of as being decent, though by no means certain of victory. To his right is a young woman dressed in the sort of clothes that instantly give her away as a member of the press, in all their decrepitude. The reporter seems to care very little for the game, her inquisitive eyes darting to each of you in turn. She doesn't smile with her lips, but does murmur a polite greeting all the same, her foot tapping impatiently, and you wonder how long the group has been waiting. And to the right of the reporter, a woman with dark black skin, in the twilight of her years yet still mesmerizing, is attempting to seem interested in the passing of cards. Her dress is not especially glamorous, but the diamond earrings she wears are a callback to the fame and fortune the singer once enjoyed. She offers you a slight, faltering smile that doesn't hide her exhaustion in the slightest.
So?
The major booms, sitting back at the table and pulling you a chair.
That's all of us assembled, and with that, I am certain our host won't be long in joining us? Indeed.
A voice murmurs languidly from the long sofa. A constant cloud of acrid smoke hangs over the prone aristocrat as she chews the ruins of a cigar betwixt her teeth. She seems to share the impatience of the rest of the little group, but disinterested and detached as she is, makes no real effort to greet you beside a cursory nod of her head. As you pull up a chair, the financier folds his hand, and then folds back into his seat.
Perhaps we've all been had. Wouldn't it be some prank to pay for all our trips here, then not appear himself? What a guy, our host, bringing such minds to one room and then refusing to make his grand entry. He has refused to meet with any of you, right?
Murmurs of assent drift from around the table, and maybe from the couch, though it is rather hard to say. The reporter, having given up any indication of interest in cards, folds her hands against one another.
I've given it a few thoughts, and think it's more likely this is some sort of scam. I did a little digging, and we've all got it in with this guy, one way or another. I don't like to think about it, but you hear things in my line of work. Maybe what we've been called here for, is to hear what he wants us to hear. Baldur dash.
The major cries with great force, slamming his fist into the table with enough strength to send a few of the cards flying, much to the displeasure of the financier.
This is a party, not some kind of extortion, and if it is, there are 6 of us to his 1.
Calming somewhat, he continues.
Let us not make accusations without proof. I think.
The singer begins, then stops to catch her thoughts.
I think that if the host wanted us to feel some sort of pressure, play some kind of game with us, he's doing a great job.
Turning to you with graying hair that obscures the seriousness in her gaze, she adds.
We've been waiting here for perhaps 2 hours, mostly. She was already present, and in fact had to let me in when I first arrived.
The singer motions to the aristocrat, who has finally managed to rouse herself from her exhaustion and risen to a sitting position, her gloved hands against her knees. Tobacco-stained teeth grin at you as she speaks.
Quite. I actually arrived before any of you, only to find the door unlocked. Given my situation and natural curiosity, I let myself in. The study is locked, as is the cellar, but other than that, the entirety of the place is open enough that any brigand could come in and take it over.
Looking mildly disgusted, the financier shakes his head.
Dear God, woman! Have you no shame, taking advantage of our host's generosity like that?
You cannot help but notice that, in spite of his tone, however, he looks more amused than enraged. Shrugging enigmatically in response, the aristocrat returns to puffing smoke into the air, so much so that without a further word, the reporter rises to her feet and opens a window to the quiet thanks of the major and the singer. But then, suddenly, a sound distracts you. A sudden sound, causing everyone to turn to the right and towards the dining room. The sound of a solitary, ringing bell. Heading to the dining room, you investigate the bell. Aside you, 6 pairs of footsteps trace into the dining area in tandem, which has been so thoroughly cleaned and made tidy that you would assume an army of housekeepers had been through the room twice over. So shocked is the aristocrat that the cigar falls from her lips and scatters onto the floor in a peal of ash.
But, this entire room was completely empty before. I've been through twice.
Shaking in confusion, she quickly calms herself, whispering something to the financier, who nods curtly. You wonder if the two know each other as the singer steps closer to the long table in the center of the room, eyes wide.
There are places here, set for each and every one of us, and more than that. Letters. Letters addressed to the lot of us, can you believe that? Perhaps he won't speak to us face to face, but he's fine with hiding behind words.
A moment of anger passes along her face, a controlled anger that won't stand for audacity, but is powerless to stop it.
Well, who cares? I mean, letters are letters, whether they're written or spoken. I imagine if our host truly wrote these, he probably wanted us to read them, right?
Waving his letter in the air so crisply that you can hear the paper snap, the financier grins, takes a seat and places his feet up against the table, much to the chagrin of the major.
Are we doing this round robin, or just going solo?
The reporter asks, looking disinterestedly at her own letter, but avidly at the reactions of all of you. She's already brazenly produced a pen and paper, and is making no secret of taking her thoughts, and the words of others, down.
I, for one, refuse to be intimidated by a childish gesture such as this. Whatever our host has to say, he may say to all of us.
The major proclaims, tearing into his letter and eyeing it over once, then twice. His eyes well up, and he slumps into his seat, silent.
Harumph.
The aristocrat mutters, the click of a mechanical lighter sounding like a thunderclap as she lights a cigarette in an amber-colored holder.
I see no reason to amuse a host who cannot even bother to show himself.
The lighter clicks once more as she burns her letter with an undisguised and venomous amusement. Turning her gaze to the rest of you, she states simply.
I do not know what our gracious host wrote each of you, nor do I care. If anyone else wishes to burn their letters.
Her eyes for a brief minute flash to the major, and you detect the slightest hint of a pity, though only for a moment. He is the first to hand his over, then the singer and finally the reporter. That leaves you and the financier, who seems to be enjoying the somber atmosphere far too much.
Come now, the rest of you didn't even open yours. Well, I'm not one to put my money where my mouth is, Major. I hope you're all ready to feel like fools, ahem.
Digging for some reading glasses in his suit pocket, he cracks open the letter and begins to read aloud.
Dear, he used my actual name here. With all due respect, I don't respect any of you enough to repeat it, dear me. How are you doing? Perhaps you remember those storied days of our youth spent at Oxford.
The financier pauses, looking confused. Grinning, the reporter jabs him in the side with her pen.
Money, mouth, pal. Did he say something terrifying and exploitative that you just can't spill? No. No. It's just, we never went to Oxford.
The room falls silent, and the financier continues, still obviously confused.
But the time has come and we are no longer children, and the day is long in the tooth. I have some things I want to bestow upon you, and feel I cannot tell you securely in confidence. I will not send this, but pass it to you when the time is right. I am honored to call you a friend, and hope you will forgive my impudence. Yours truly, Hum.
A moment passes in silence punctuated only by foul smoke.
Damn, wish I'd read mine now.
The aristocrat opens melancholically.
You were the first to burn yours, you wretch.
The major cries, but his words lack tooth. In the confusion, you subtly open yours and look at it while the attention of the crowd is turned. It reads. I know. Before you can react, however, the bell from before rings once again. To the surprise of all assembled, a small slit on the wall opens up, exposing a complicated series of conveyors attached to a dumbwaiter, from which tantalizing smells lurk just beyond a series of covered dishes.
How clever! It looks like our host hasn't forgotten us, even if he can't make it himself.
The major mutters only half to you, and half to himself.
Well. I'm not one to ruminate too much on an empty stomach. I say we dig in.
The reporter adds cheerfully, grabbing her platter without a second thought. Despite some misgivings, everyone else decides to do so as well, yourself included. Inside awaits a genuine feast. Poached eggs on a field of rice, slathered in a delicate sauce that tastes of ground oranges and pepper. Fresh legs of crab, steamed to perfection and only slightly hinting of lemon zest, white wine, and the sea. A thick burgundy soup the consistency of chowder, rich and tinny to the taste. Ripe fruits and cheeses next to an assortment of pastries, and mulled teas and bitter coffees to finish. There is little conversation over the exquisite meal, and the mood has improved massively by the time it is finished. The night having colonized the tree line outside in full force, the only light comes from fashionably crafted electric lights designed to cast fanciful shadows amongst the dining room wall. As the last traces of food disappear from their plates and you do what you can to clean them, the singer finishes recounting a story, looking much brighter than when you first encountered her.
So, it wasn't long before everyone had just burst out laughing. I was going to half die of fright, I told myself. But you have to keep going. If you stop to think about what the crowd thinks, even for a second, it'll grab you with a mighty terror, and never let go.
Smiling, the singer finishes, staring up at the ceiling.
Come to think of it, I'd say that was the first day I was aware of just how scary an audience is. It's easy to be scared of an individual, but people who can just choose to walk away, that's a totally different kind of fear. Surely, you would make a good soldier with that kind of attitude.
The Major chuckles to himself, lying back in his seat with an unconcealed look of content exhaustion plastered across his face.
There's nothing more frightening than just you, perhaps 400 or 500 of your boys, and not knowing who is out there, waiting for you. Perhaps, Major, but I cannot imagine wanting to kill someone. I'm flattered, but I must decline.
The singer responds with diplomatic grace, her voice doing much to avoid politicizing the statement further.
If I may interrupt, I don't think it's people that are so scary. It's the things you hear about working long nights, rumors, and such, that send you on a long, hair-brained investigation that leads you to conclusions you didn't even think were possible.
The reporter interjects thoughtfully.
One time, for example, I was covering elections, and there had been rumors about voting fraud, of course. So I went down to this rural village, Major. It had about 4, maybe 500 people, like you would imagine. And the thing is, 1 in 5 of them had a twin, or even triplets. How on earth are triplets terrifying?
The aristocrat chuckles in response, glancing distractedly at the ashes of previously burned paper still dusting the table.
Any more so than the unknown, anyway. No, that's precisely why. It didn't make sense. Can't really explain it to you if you don't see it, but it isn't right. Didn't sit well. And there's other stuff, weird stories you hear about people spontaneously jumping into the sea during long voyages.
Silent until now, the financier holds up a hand.
Wait.
The room goes silent, the previous atmosphere dispelled almost in an instant. Outside, the harshness of the rain is audible, loud, and shrapnel-like against the unyielding windows.
In investiture, you're always looking for patterns, how things are related. At first, I figured, and I apologize, but this is what I do, that maybe we all owed something to our host. But, and forgive me if I'm guessing wrong, but, that's a pretty esoteric field of knowledge, Madam Reporter.
Bristling, the reporter's brown eyes blink twice as she spits back a reply.
It's just stuff you pick up as you go, nothing important. Why focus on it, anyway? Because, and again, someone leap out, tell me if I'm wrong, is it only just you that's had such experiences? Heard such rumors?
Once again, the room goes silent. The financier slinks into his chair, moving his feet against one another with a very nervous expression.
Please, if someone wants to, I'd love to be wrong here.
No one replies.
You know, there is a kind of idea people have of Cameroon, of the people there.
The Major begins. He is cautious as he speaks, the ponderous slowness of his tone highlighting his slow choice of words outside of his native Deutsche.
But never once did I say any of my boys do anything wrong. I felt I had served admirably and come back admirably, and that was the matter of that. No, it was when I was in Hamburg that I first saw it.
Hesitantly, he raps his knuckles against the table unconsciously. Nervously.
There was a little show, one of those traveling museum pieces. I had gone to see it. I was in a deep depression then, over some news. And there it was, like a circlet of green fire. I remember thinking that something so horribly beautiful shouldn't be seen by the public. I didn't want to see it, no, but I couldn't look away.
He clearly has more he wants to say, but the Major's mouth flaps open and closed several times before going completely silent. No more words from him.
Baltimore, 1898.
The singer interjects, her eyes glassy in recollection.
It was the second to last concert I had performed in the USA. There had been a lot of trouble about me booked up in Maryland, and the crowds were ugly. There had been a couple brawls before everything started up. We had a few local acts warming them up, bless their hearts, but it didn't stick. Nothing stuck. Then this woman gets up, older than time itself. She points at a man in the audience, spits right at him. You should drop dead. She yells, and then he does. And you, and you. And one by one, some of the audience just keels over, like puppets with their strings cut. Finally, we got to restrain her, but she just walked on off the stage like it was no thing, and the weirdest part is that the crowd was subdued and mellow after that. No one wanted to perform but...
She trails off.
My story actually relates directly to our illustrious host.
The financier says, no longer looking nervous but instead focused with a certain intensity to his gaze, fingers steepled and occasionally glancing over his shoulder, as if expecting that same host to appear at any time.
We both had an interest in rare things. Artifacts, precious treasure, rumors, stories. He would always bring over these manuscripts, excited, and ask what I thought of them. At the time I could only read a few languages, but I stumbled through knackle, somehow. It was so ridiculous I laughed it off at the time. Ancient gods, coming back to bring the ruin of humanity? It was worse than a cheap novel.
Closing his eyes, the financier whistles to himself, smiling.
But that leaves at least one of us who hasn't said anything. You've still got a few minutes left if you want to end this right here.
Turning to face the aristocrat, the attention of the group turns with him. Her expression is practically neutral as she replies.
This is foolish, and we're all foolish for buying into the mind games of our host. I'm going to return to my quarters for a bit.
Rising to her feet, the aristocrat makes leave with measured tread towards the upper level. The singer's eyes narrow as she recalls something, and excuses herself before calling out.
Hey! That's the host's room. What on earth do you think?
Jimmying the locked doorknob several times, the aristocrat knocks sharply on the door, first once, then twice.
Open up, please. We would all be grateful for the courtesy of your presence.
She's smiling, but it doesn't quite reach her eyes. No reply reaches any of you from the inside of the door, and at some point, all of you have found yourselves clustered around it. The atmosphere is rank with tension and sweat, but still, no reply comes.
Clearly, the man's just decided to be a no-show. He's working us up, probably planning to make a dramatic announcement at breakfast tomorrow.
The reporter quips, turning on her feet.
I'll see you all.
A man's skeleton, about the size and height of your host, has been assembled with great care amongst the entrance hall. It has been stretched out, each bone placed perhaps a few inches away from the next, making it look as if it has been pulled apart piece by piece, and left there for some time. You hear a slight, muffled gasp from behind you as the singer pulls her hand to her lips. The financier mumbles something and closes his eyes. The major narrows his and steps forward.
Right. I'm going to get the constabulary.
Taking care to avoid any of the bones on the floor, he reaches to open the front door, only to hear a clicking sound as he twists the knob. He tries it again, sweat breaking out as it doesn't respond, then pops off with an audible hiss and the stench of smog.
All right. You.
Pointing to the financier, the major motions to the door.
Come now. Between the two of us, we should be able to knock it down. Do you know anything about law? I refuse to knock down a door in a house where someone's skeleton is laid out on the floor. I'm staying right here until morning, at which point two of us should go and fetch the constabulary.
The financier bites back, while suppressing his shivering, though only just. Rolling her eyes and lighting a cigarette, the aristocrat steps forward.
Apparently my broad shoulders shall be of some use in this life, after all. Let's give it a try, shall we? And how about?
She points a finger at you, but the major shakes his head.
No. I believe that the financier is right. Best we keep our names out of it, best we remain detached from one another, and if someone is to be brought in for questioning for this, I am willing it to be me. Do you understand the possible dangers we take?
She nods expressionlessly, shrugs, and they set to it. You watch as they try fruitlessly again and again, sweat breaking out all over the major as the aristocrat wipes her own from her brow. Turning your attention, you can see the reporter tracing the skeleton ceaselessly, her brow furrowed.
Doesn't even look like it came from the same guy, if it came from a guy. Wish we had a doctor on hand. Hey! What about the windows? Could we maybe squeeze through the windows?
Her voice grows slightly higher in tone, nervous and excited at the same time. And that's when you notice that each window, to the last, has been boarded up and nailed tightly. The weather outside is no longer visible, and it is at that point that the power dies. No one screams or panics, and the first thing you notice is that despite the horror, everyone has been relatively calm over the discovery of the long-dead body. A now familiar click lights the hall as the aristocrat snaps her lighter, and you can just make out each other's faces.
I believe I saw some sconces and candelabra around the place.
The singer offers composedly. There is a tranquil fury on her face that doesn't match her voice, and you can hear her hands shaking, even though you cannot see them. Before long, the group of you have managed to light all of the lower complexes. The upper story rooms remain unlit, including that of the host, to your knowledge. In addition, the inner door to the cellar is locked, as is a room on the second story you were not able to investigate. No conversation passes, and suddenly the reporter, frowning, rises.
Screw all this. I'm headed off. We'll wait it out. We'll wait it all out. I'm going to go to the...
She motions to a room to the far west of the house, and walks quickly off before anyone can get a word in edgewise. Next is the financier, heading upstairs without a word. The aristocrat snorts as the major mentions weakly that you should all stay together, and leaves to a lower story room in a cloud of smoke. That leaves you, the singer, and the major, alone in the foyer, uncertain of the time of night, and of what to do. You can follow the reporter. Follow the financier. Follow the aristocrat. Stay with the singer and major. Make your choice below.